He's not here yet. But let's start our discussion. Save Nigeria group. Save Nigeria from who?
Save Nigeria from anti-Nigerians. Save Nigeria from the hijackers of Nigeria, the kidnappers of the president of Nigeria. Save Nigeria for the looters, for the criminals, you know, just save Nigeria. We have to save this nation. We have to get up and do it.
Okay, Professor Chidi, the present situation in Nigeria, I didn't know the extent of the international dimension to all the problems in Nigeria until somebody posted to me a cartoon in a Kenyan newspaper about the situation in Nigeria. You see, they had this long convoy of official cars, and in between the convoy you had this ambulance with the crest of the presidency of Nigeria on it. And then the rider to it is that the new official car in Nigeria, the new presidential car in Nigeria, or something like that. I can't remember precisely now. And I thought that Nigeria, this is just one of the so many ridicules to which Nigeria has been subjected to in the international community.
There's no question about that. We are the butt of a lot of jokes. Much of it, unfortunately, we cannot credibly refute. You just mentioned one, which was in Kenya, in the Kenyan Daily Nation, I believe that was 4 days ago. 2 days ago, there was another one also in the Kenyan Daily Nation. 2 days ago, as you may remember, was the International Women's Day. And the Daily Nation had an image that looked like the Nigerian president in a crash with a blown up image of somebody who, with the name of the Nigerian president's wife, sitting over and cordoning off the president. And the caption there was, "Women are on the march." You have several other cartoons like that from Bangkok to Johannesburg. And you pass the airports of the world, you pick up the same thing. And the misfortune, of course, is that most of our leaders are too preoccupied with benefiting themselves. They are unable to see that this is damaging our country beyond belief outside our borders.
The question will be, how did we find ourselves at this sordid end? Is this what all the struggle for several years to get the military out of the political arena, is this all the results has come to?
Let's admit one thing: democracy is messy. It's not pretty.
Everywhere?
I think everywhere. Democracy is not pretty. Now, the problem is we don't yet have democracy, because democracy begins from one thing: legitimate elections. We have not had legitimate elections, at least in the last 2 rounds, probably since 1999. But 2007 was a non-election. And the people who took over power in 2007 have had no incentive to try and get Nigerians involved in the project of governance. And until a lot of people who should be in jail are running our country. Whether the economics of our country, or the politics of our country, or the law enforcement of our country. If you actually put away all the people who should be in jail in this country, we will not have enough prisons to contain them. And these are just the people in government. I'm not talking about the petty criminals that we have at the moment. So we spend a lot of money on election petitions when we should be spending money on prosecuting electoral crimes. And there is no reason why a government that is committed to electoral reform needs to wait for the Ways report's adoption to prosecute crimes that already exist in our laws. But they're not going to do it because they're the beneficiaries. So we've got to get our priorities right and then set our country on the right track.
Let's look at the after effect of the situation we have on our ground. Apart from the fact that, like Prof said, apart from the fact that Nigeria has become the butt of jokes in the international community, there's also the problem within. I mean, we just talked about JOS, where you have an acting president who was given security report, and of course it's not the one that is going to work on the security report, pass them to the appropriate agencies, but nothing happened. You have an acting president who a lot of said has been, that is acting president in name, but you have a substantive president. That so if he moves at all, he can only be tentative in his decisions and all of that.
That is why, for instance, we're saying that the Section 144 should now be evoked, because I think we have gone past the stage of calling for a letter to be submitted by the president, because I think people work with information. And that means that whether you have the right information or the wrong information, that's whatever you have is what is available. So that is what you work with. In our case, we have wrong information. So we are entitled to presume whether they like it or not. And I mean the cabal and the Federal Executive Council, where the Senate, the House of Representatives, whether they like it or not, Nigerians, 150 million of us, have to decide that the president is incapacitated. He can't send us a letter, so we're not expecting a letter. Let us move forward. Let us enact 144 of the Constitution. I mean, the acting president has acted on the information that he had, which has turned out to be a false information. And he is working with people, ministers, that were nominated by governors, who are now presuming that they are now the acting president. So you can see the whole mess that is going on in this country. So Nigerians have to get up. Nigerians have to come forward. Nigerians have to take power back and use that power. And we're saying to the acting president, you are now the acting president by constitution, not by election. The people of Nigeria say by the constitution that you are the acting president. Do the right thing. Do what is expected of you. Dissolve that Federal Executive Council. They don't mean well for Nigerians. They definitely don't mean well for Goodluck Jonathan to be able to act within the next 12 months to move the nation forward. So we Nigerians are the ones that are going to push and propel him and make him to take these right decisions. It is our responsibility. He is the person we are going to put that responsibility on his shoulders, and he must act. And so that is where we are today.
Okay, Prof, let's benefit from your...
If the country exists in a little cocoon of itself, entirely disentangled from the rest of the world. You've given the example of Egypt, which is there. But let me go back to the first part of your question. There's a problem with power. Nobody gives power. Or, if power is in your domain, you've got to take it, and you've got to exercise it, and you've got to show an appetite to do the things that power exists to be done with. Every new person in power, whether it is a new president, or a new prime minister, has to acclimatize, has to understand the trappings, the turbines that drive the process of power, of exercising power. It's not much different here. But once you understand those, then you've got to show a willingness to use the full panoply. Whether or not the question as to constitutionality or unconstitutionality, propriety or otherwise of the accession of the acting president is not for us to begin to question now. If there are two ways in which that can be turned around. One, the National Assembly adopts a joint resolution setting aside its earlier resolution, or a court of competent jurisdiction in Nigeria, ultimately up to the Supreme Court if necessary, sets aside what the National Assembly has done. Those are the only two ways in which the current situation can be set aside. And so people had better get used to the idea that until either of those two things happens, we have an acting president. Now, first of all, let's understand also that President Yar'Adu is a Nigerian citizen. Nobody has a bigger claim to Nigeria than he does as a citizen. All of us have equal claims there. Number two, he has not been formally removed